Bedford. Yeah, unfortunately, we're stuck to virtual meetup groups still, but hopefully that all changes. I know there's definitely been a lot of demand for us to meet back up at Nottingham's or wherever, any, a local spot. So yeah, let's get started. Like Ian said, if you don't mind, just chat your name in the chat box. We're going to try to make this as interactive as possible. I know it's challenging doing this virtually, but maybe chat your name, a little bit about yourself, maybe your investment style and things like that. My name is Jason Balin from Hard Money Bankers. My partner Chris Haddon from Hard Money Bankers is on here somewhere probably as well. And then Ian Horowitz. So the three of us kind of co-host this meetup group called the Real Estate Investing Incubator Meetup Group. If this is your first time tuning in, welcome. If you've been around for a long time, we've probably been doing this for about 6 or 7 years. And unfortunately, over the last 18 months, we've tried to be as consistent as possible doing this virtually. So obviously, if you are a seasoned real estate investor, you understand the importance of having a solid title company on your side. It's probably one of the most important things. I personally have done 3,000 private loans through my company, Hard Money Bankers, over the last 15 years. And Ian's done hundreds and hundreds of transactions as well. So like firsthand, we'll tell you that having the right title company kind of on your side will make or break a deal. I cringe when I work with some real estate investors and they're going through like some sort of national title company. And I'm like, be careful, just to save like a few $100. So we felt it was best to bring Blake on. Ian and I have been friends with Blake for a good while now. And I know Blake's a little bit nervous, but that's all right. We're not gonna give him a hard time here. And we try to keep this as interactive, but also as fun as possible with good kind of questions. And he has a presentation as well that he's going to go through, because title's not the sexiest topic. We all know that. Most people want to hear about how do I find deals? How do I make money? How do I raise capital and things like that? But title is such the backbone to this. And it is so important. And so many people, not only do they not understand it, but they don't realize there's a big difference between choosing the correct title company and a title company that knows what's up. And I can tell you from experience, I've had title insurance claims, many of them over the years. And, you have the wrong title company in place, like you really could be screwed. And the last thing you want to do is work hard to do a real estate transaction. And then for some reason, you didn't have title insurance in place, or something was kind of mucked up and you didn't know what you're looking at. You didn't have the right team on your side, and it really turns into a mess. Ian, anything you want to add real quick before we get going with Blake?
Yeah, I just want to add that anybody that's over on Facebook that's watching there on the live stream, if you guys want to ask questions, just put in the comments, or we'll put in the comments the Zoom link, and you can come over here and ask the questions, be a part of the chat group, see everybody's commenting over here. But so we'll put that in over there. And I see Blake's already getting great questions about, does he use that Peloton in the background? So we'll get there in a second. With that being said, I've personally had title companies not perform the way they say they're going to, and shit the bed right before closing. And it's a very stressful situation. And I've had the pleasure of working with Blake and Mike. I haven't worked with a few other of his team members, but they're a great team over there. And this isn't a sales pitch. This is real life experience of people that we use on a daily basis. And you can see how it works for us. So with that being said, I want to bring Blake and his team in. Blake, if you want to introduce yourself and your team, and then you can go ahead and start sharing your slides.
Got it. Blake Levy with Legacy Settlement Services. I've been in title around 20 years. I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing, but here I am. Jason says it's not a sexy topic. I think it's the sexiest topic going. We're bringing sexy right back into title. So we're here, me, Michael, and Nate are here. We're going to answer all your questions. We're going to talk about title, the best part of the real estate process. And yeah, we're going to go through a little slide deck. If anybody has any questions, we'll answer them. And I'm ready whenever you are. So we have Michael Reuter.
Blake, yeah, hi everyone, Michael Reuter. Ian and Jason, thank you so much for inviting us on. Super grateful. I've been in title probably 12 years or so. I'm I'm the owner of Legacy Settlement Services. And I would like, I guess Blake and Nate can kind of start off for you guys, and they'll give you a background on kind of what a title company is, what a title company does, let you ask some specific questions. Nate McCabe's going to be a great resource to let you guys know about liens, insurance policies, all the nitty gritty details that nobody wants to know about. But like Ian said, if they go wrong and if the title company's not on top of it, you know, you're going to screw up and essentially not be able to close on your transaction or close with claims or have claims come up after. Once they're done doing that, I'll speak just completely freely. Ian, I want to second what he said. This isn't a sales pitch. At the end of the day, if somebody said, we have 100 investors for you, we'll give you all the business, we can't even take it. You know, we can't even handle all of it. So investor business is a very specific type of transaction and clientele. We do a lot of investor business, but it's very important that as investors, you speak to your title company, you create a relationship, and you know what types of questions to ask and what to look for, the type of service and type of transactions you're doing, what you need to accomplish your goals in real estate. Because at the end of the day, everyone's in this for business. There's a lot of salesmen and saleswomen out there, and they're in it to get business. You need to know, we'll help you identify the red flags, what to look for in a title company, when things are looking really good and when they're not. And we'll kind of pull the curtain back on what title company does behind the scenes for you. I'll do that for you guys at the end. And we'll make sure that you're partnering up with the right people and make sure you can make some money and have trusted partners.
Thanks, Mike.
Nate, you want to mention anything, or should we just get this?
I think Michael covered it. I'll kind of chime in as Blake goes through the PowerPoint, and certainly I'm here to answer any questions if they come up. But I think we did a good job introing us.
Blake, do you want to you want to share your screen? And again, if anyone has any questions, listen. If you want to be on video, feel free to you know, be on video. If you can, just keep yourself muted for now. For those hosts that are talking, I might have to unmute you. So I don't know, put something in the chat if you can't unmute. Like, Michael, I see you're muted now. Like, for some reason, if you're talking and you cannot unmute, just let me know. There you go. You can do it yourself. Okay. So we'll let them do their thing. Any questions, feel free to ask them kind of along the way. You can also raise your hand inside the Zoom platform, and we can do it that way if you want to talk, or you just chat your questions and we can do it that way. And then we'll try to keep it like an open forum at the end. And yeah, I guess Blake, do your thing, and Ian and I might chime in with some questions or, you know, along the way as well, if that's all right.
That'd be great. I can't see the chat box, so if anybody chats,
Yeah, we got it.
We'll monitor the questions for you.
All right. So like I said, my name is Blake with Legacy Settlement Services. I'm actually in Florida. I opened the Florida branch this year, and we're in Maryland, DC, Virginia, and Pennsylvania. So we can write title insurance policies in all of those states. We have, like I said, I've been in title 20 years. Nate has been, I don't know, 7 or 8. Michael, 15. We have an attorney on staff who's been around 30. So there's a lot of experience in our office. We've seen thousands and thousands and thousands of deals between us.
Hey, Blake, can you push present on that? You know how to do that on that PowerPoint? And then just so it'll be bigger.
Oh, bigger?
Yeah. Like if you can push.
Full screen?
Down bottom. Go down bottom, and the thing right next. 1, 2, 3, 4. The 5th one over. Down.
You see?
Right. Right. Yep. Right there.
Okay.
There you go.
So the meetup, then, you know, the meeting and why everybody showed up is why it's important to partner with a good title company. And what Michael expressed was that, you know, you want your title company to basically understand the deal that you're trying to close, right? So there's all kinds of deals. There's regular refi deals, there's purchase deals, there's wholesale deals. So since we're at an investment meetup, I figured we'd talk about some of the investment deals, right? Wholesale, double close. You can buy, renovate, and sell, buy, renovate, and rent. There's short sale deals, REO deals, foreclosure deals, auction deals, regular refinances, right? And depending
Assignment properties I see in Baltimore a lot as well.
What's that?
Assignment deals I see a lot in Baltimore.
Assignment deals, yeah. So for anybody who doesn't know, I figured we do a little title 101. What is a title company? What do we do actually? What is our part of the deal? I like to say that we're, in the middle, right? We're like the legal side between the lender, the buyer, the seller, and the agents. We do have attorneys, and I wrote a little thing up here. You have to go through the title company. I just passed that. Sorry, I don't know how to go back. But basically, we take the contract to close. I did it again. Oh, wait, here we go.
Left arrow.
I got it. One more. Right, we ensure we pull the title, which means we look for all the judgments and liens, make sure that the title's clear, right? We ensure the title is a piece of real estate is legitimate, and we can issue title insurance. We collect and disperse all the monies. That's called an escrow account. And at the closing, we send a settlement agent to bring all the paperwork and explain it to who's ever signing, collect all the monies, and distribute the monies if needed at the table. And then what we do is we record the deeds and other documents that need to be recorded, so it's public knowledge of who owns the property and what type of lien or judgment is on the property. So how do we do that, right? We hire out vendors, and we get what's called a title search. And that's an examination of all the liens, judgments. Move this little screen here. There we go. Right, and it says who owns the property, what's owed on the property, if there's any lis pendens, if there's anything pending on the property that is not told by any of the parties involved. Whatever's public knowledge, we can find out. And then during the search, we also look for outstanding mortgages, judgments, liens, unpaid taxes, anything that would hinder us from transferring property from one owner to the next. So the title insurance, right? We're all human, and we just go by computer. So if for some reason we were to miss something, or as Jason was saying earlier, if something were to pop up that we couldn't find, this is where the title insurance would kick in. There's a lender's policy and an owner's policy. Anytime you get a loan, doesn't matter if it's hard money, real money, straight money, the lender will require the policy. And it's also a very, very, very good idea, as we're going to talk about later, to get your owner's policy as well to cover you. The way I always explain it is, if the lender's going to cover themselves, you may as well cover yourself. It's a one-time cost. It lasts until you sell the home. And it can protect you against any claims or legal fees that may arise from disputes over the ownership of the property. So some of the big, it kind of
Blake.
Blake,
Hold on one second.
Quick question for you.
Yeah.
So I think one thing that's misunderstood is who the title company actually represents in the transaction. And you know how, like, typically in the state of Maryland, the buyer can choose the title company.
Right.
So just because the buyer's choosing the title company doesn't necessarily mean that the title company represents the buyer. And correct me if I'm wrong on this, but is it a true statement that the title company, for the most part, is kind of the intermediary, right? Like, they're providing the title insurance, but like they're doing, they're representing the transaction, the buyer, the seller, the lender, maybe there's a short seller, a short sale bank or something like that. So just because like you order title doesn't mean you have an attorney from a title company that's representing you in the transaction. Is that accurate? That typically kind of a middleman?
I can check in there, Blake. So yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, our job as the title company really defaults to being a neutral party. So in Maryland, the buyer is going to typically choose the title company. In other states, sometimes the seller chooses the title company. Our attorney works for us, but they work for everybody else involved in the transaction. If you go to court later because you don't get an owner's policy and something comes up, our attorney doesn't come in for you. Situations like that. We're trying to do our due diligence on the transaction for everybody involved. So just because the source of the business comes from the buyer's end typically, doesn't mean that we're doing our best to only work for the buyer. We need to do our due diligence for all parties involved. And that goes from the lender to the buyers, to the sellers, to the agents. Nate, I think you could probably chime in a little bit on that as well.
Yeah, so in the state of Maryland, at least, generally the title company is contracted by the buyer, but we serve kind of a dual function. We sit as an absolutely neutral party as the escrow agent, which means that we are collecting all of the money coming from the buyer, from the lender, from sometimes the seller too in a short sale, and then we disperse all the proceeds after the transaction is closed. And in that capacity, we serve as a completely neutral party. As the title insurer, we serve to more on the benefit of the buyer's side, because we are doing a title search and ensuring title to protect the buyer. Because once the transaction's closed, the seller walks away. And if the seller walks away with liens against their home that didn't show up in the land records that might appear later, or forgery or some things that can happen, and I've got stories in my career that maybe I'll tell later. Once they walk away from the home, they're kind of done, and the buyer's left holding the bag, because whether it's a tax lien, a mechanic's lien, or a judgment, all that stuff attaches to the house. Even an unpaid water bill attaches to the house. So if a buyer comes in and now owns that home, those liens belong to them. And so the insurance product that we deliver serves to protect the buyer. As an escrow agent, we're dead nuts in the middle, and we are facilitating the transaction to benefit both buyer and seller. But the reason we search title and provide insurance is to protect the buyer in the transaction.
Yep, good points. And then I don't know if you guys want to go into detail or a little bit related to like what, and maybe you have this in a slide, Blake, related to title insurance. Like what is it? Like what does owner's title insurance cover? Related to past liens, things like that.
Nate, I think it's probably best for you to explain the owners in detail, and then I want to add something that investors should be very aware of when deciding if they want optional owners or not.
Yeah, well, I mean, so owner's title insurance, look, if you're borrowing money, the lender's going to force you into buying a policy to protect their investment, which is the loan. And if there is a claim against the title, they're going to collect what is owed to them, basically, which is the mortgage balance, and they're going to walk away. The purpose of owner's insurance is to protect the owner's investment, which is the asset itself. There are a myriad of things that owner's title insurance protect against. Anything from mistakes at the courthouse when recording the deed. I can certainly tell this story that is a bell ringer of why you need owner's title insurance that happened in my career. Probably 2 years ago, I wasn't with Legacy yet. I was with another company, and we had a guy selling a home and purchasing another one. And I mean, this was like a pretty white collar. The house was worth about $800,000. And when we did his title search, he had a first mortgage, he had a HELOC against his house, and then he had a personal loan from his mother-in-law, all liens recorded in the land records. And then he also had some hard money loans out of Florida, which had been loaned and then released in the land records of Florida, which, when it comes to a title perspective, when he was trying to sell the home, that didn't work for me. So I started digging in a little bit. And also, as you guys that are hard money lenders could understand, he was already mortgaged to the hilt. So I couldn't understand why a hard money lender would loan him any money. And so I dug in a little bit, and I caught this guy in the act. But if I had not caught him, then the buyer of this property would have had huge problems when they took over title. But the short version of the story is the guy had forged his wife's name on a power of attorney, recorded it in the land records of Maryland, and then forged a release for his HELOC and forged a release for that personal loan from his mother-in-law, gone to hard money lenders with those releases, borrowed money from one hard money lender, and then forged a release in the land records of Florida and gone and borrowed money from another hard money lender. Now, these are hard money lenders that weren't doing their homework because they never should have lent them the money. But by the end of it, he had $1.5 million out on an $800,000 home. Now, again, I caught the guy in the act. I'm fairly certain he went to prison. But basically, I mean, it was like a scene from a movie because I called his wife anonymously and said, hey, I got news for you, and I hate to be the one to tell you this, but your husband is committing various levels of fraud and forgery. You need to get a lawyer and search the land records of Florida and Maryland. And then I called the attorneys that were the hard money lenders in Florida and said, hey, I've got these hard money loans that are recorded as paid off in the land records. I don't think they're paid off. But anyway, we uncovered all this forgery that this guy had tried to commit. And if he had been better at it, he might have gotten away. And then the buyer of that home would have been stuck with these loans that were called in 90 days when the hard money lenders weren't getting paid anymore. So without an insurance policy, the buyer of that home would have been left with their hat in their hand and been forced to hire their own counsel and defend themselves against this person that had committed multiple levels of forgery and fraud. The insurance policy exists because if something like that happens, and it does happen, then there's a team of attorneys. Our underwriter is one of the larger companies, quite literally in the country. And there's a team of attorneys that step in on the behalf of the insured party to represent them in court and also cover them if anything comes up.
On the flip side of Nate's story there, we had a transaction closed for $300,000 where the buyers did not want title insurance, owner's title insurance policy, which was like a $600-700 policy, something like that, one-time payment. Like we said, they were identical sisters, the sellers. One of the sisters did not know the other sister was forging all the documents in her name, showed up twice, identical. They're identical sisters, sold the property fraudulently without her sister knowing about it. Sister finds out. I imagine from there it went to court and things like that. And Nate, you can speak on what that $600 policy would have covered for them. I mean, attorney fees, they took out a loan from the bank, and it just was a nightmare by them not purchasing the policy.
Yeah, I mean, if you don't have the policy, you're forced to defend yourself. And forgery is a great example. I mean, I can give another one too. Now, this didn't happen to me personally, but I read about it, and this was in Howard County. It was in the early 2000s. I don't remember what development it was. It might have been Maple Lawn Farms, but in the state of Maryland, most suburbs at one point, it was farmland. And these farms were passed down generally for 150 or 200 years in families. And there was a development in Howard County where the farm got sold to a developer. The developer subdivided and built homes. They built a neighborhood. And it turns out that the people that sold the farm, their great grandfather, when the farm got passed to them, it got passed to him and his sister. And his sister moved to California. We're talking like the 1920s, no computers, parchment deeds written with calligraphy ink. The sister moved to California and died. She had kids, whatever, she died. And then her brother changed the deed to take her off of it and then passed it down, right? And then their great grandkids sold the farm. And then the great granddaughter of the sister found the old deed in grandma's attic and called a lawyer and showed up in Maryland and said, hey, my great grandmother never agreed to the sale of this farm. We own half of every house in this neighborhood. And they were right. And so all of the title insurance policies in the neighborhood had to get together. And I think they paid her like $5 million to go away.
Yeah, I mean, this is a lot more common than one might think. I know you guys know this, but it's a lot more common. And a lot of the times it might not even have been impacted from your current transaction. It could be from the transaction before. And you're kind of just, rolling the dice without it. I mean, I'll tell you, when we do loans for people, I would probably say 1 out of 50 people probably say, why do you have to get lender's title insurance? And at the same time, they're like, do you require me to get owner's title insurance? And I'm like, it's a small price to pay. It's a small price to pay to cover it. And it's typically more of a naive kind of approach. So I think it's good in order to have, if you're just not sure, talk to the title company so they can explain it to you, because people don't like paying insurance and insurance premiums, and people like to skimp any way that they can. So, but I think after they understand the importance of it, it's a no-brainer.
But it's a one-time fee, right, Mike?
Yeah, it's one time, and it covers you for the entire time you or any of your heirs own the property. The only time that a new policy has to be issued is when the deed transfers, because then we have to protect the new buyer against the seller. in case the seller's that guy committing multiple layers of fraud and forgery.
And
Jason, to your point, what you said is really important because, you know, another example of a title insurance claim could be if you bought a home and your neighbor had built let's say a shed or a fence on your property line, and you wanted to be what I call, there's a saying called penny wise and pound foolish, and you wanted to save $800 by not getting an owner's policy and $200 by not getting a survey. You have the right to do those things, but you would never know then that the neighbor has built a shed or a fence on your property until you try to sell it. And the buyer of the home is smart enough to get the owner's policy and get the survey. And the buyer says, hey, wait a minute, there's a shed on my property. This house isn't worth what you're trying to sell it for. And so as a seller, then you don't have the ability to properly market the property because you didn't know when you bought it all the things that were going on with it. And so the insurance then comes in again and assists you if you have those type of issues. And the homeowner's policy, there's a couple different types of policies, actually can help you make the neighbor move the fence if that kind of thing happens, if there's something encroaching on your property that inhibits your ability to sell it.
Now, I'll give you guys, like I said, just a transparent kind of behind the scenes tip and trick from someone who's been in title for a long time, started out with sales and now being the owner of a company. So I always tell people buying an owner's policy is like playing Russian roulette with one bullet and like a machine gun, because the odds that you're going to use it are super low. But if you do need it and you don't have it, you're screwed.
That's a big
now,
claim.
from, you know, being on the title side of things, we're making money by the owner's title insurance policy that we're selling you, the lender's title insurance policy, if it's there. The cash purchase doesn't require lender's policy. So we're making money on the owners, lenders, and then our title fees. So we don't really care how we make our money as long as we make money. You want your vendors to make money because you want them to care about the transaction, and you want them to enjoy repeatedly working with you, obviously. However, when dealing with investors, most title companies know, I know we certainly do, and we're mindful of it, is that you're business savvy, right? You're investing, you're buying properties. The volume always helps to negotiate fees and things like that and help yourself out. However, at the end of the day, we're aware that you're making an investment purchase, right? You've usually done it once or twice. You guys like Ian and Jason, you know, thousands of times. You're looking at numbers, right? It's an investment. We completely understand that. So I would much rather, and when I get the chance to talk to buyers, I don't much anymore like I used to, but I advise my whole team to do this as well. Nate was doing it for a long time for us and he did a great job. I'd rather lower our title fees and have the client get the owner's policy than opt out of the owner's policy and charge full fees. If it's a cash purchase, there's no lender's title policy. You don't want the owners. You're buying a $150,000 cash purchase. You're talking that we have maybe 800 to 1,000 in fees. Our out-of-pocket cost, we're going to make $200-300 on it. It's just not a profitable way for us to sustain a business. You know, we have overhead employees, things like that. So for us to really care about we equally care about every transaction, obviously, but to maintain a relationship with a title company, just talk to them. Just say, hey, look, what do you prefer we do? What's in our best interest and your best interest? Get the owner's policy. Let us lower our fees for you $300, $400, $500. Now you're protected and we're still making money. And no one can get hurt at the end of the day that way.
Do you guys see buyers retaining outside counsel to review their title policies? And there could be a difference between residential and commercial stuff. Obviously, that's somewhat standard on large commercial transaction, or most of these pretty boilerplate, pretty easy that it's not necessary.
I would say 2% of the time, if that, Nate, Blake. I mean, very, very rarely. If there's a special circumstance where like Aunt Susie from Idaho did title for 500 years and she wants to review everything and recommends an attorney, like we see that kind of stuff all the time. If there's like, we have situations come up often where there can be a hairy or sticky situation. Sometimes we'll recommend to them to get outside counsel because they'll want us to represent them in a way that we don't have the capacity to do so. We don't have a law firm that works for our customers as well. We don't need to operate that way. But we had a situation recently where one of the sellers was mental illness. He had very bad mental illness, not to go into it, but he was manic and things like that. And it was just, really complicating a transaction. The buyers really wanted the property still, and the seller was causing a lot of complications between him, and we became aware of it. We can't even, I think legally, Nate knows better than me, we can't even legally sign once we become aware of certain people being in certain mental and physical conditions if they're unable to sign and understand what's going on. We recommended those buyers who really wanted the house to get an attorney. Both parties actually ended up having to get attorneys for the deal to close because it became way above our pay grade to be able to get it done and get it done right for everyone. So if we see it come up, we'll recommend it. And if people have their own attorney, we'll send the title work. We'll send it for, we're not charging, we don't care. We'll let anyone look at anything. But it's really not necessary. It's not a necessary cost.
And I think you see that more in a lot of commercial deals because everybody wants to represent themselves, and there's a lot more responsibility in those deals. And before we move on from this slide, and I know we got really deep into title insurance, but I think that's one of the most important things besides the communication aspect and you guys running point on the deal you can have here. Jad made a really interesting point over here in the comments, and I never really thought about this. And we flipped a lot of houses, but I like Nate or Blake or Mike, whoever can comment on this. But it's a really interesting point. He said he used to never buy title insurance, which is a huge mistake. If you flip, you have to have title insurance. It takes forever for the banks to report their payoffs or prior HELOCs or mortgages. If the bank hasn't reported their payoffs and you don't have title insurance, you're stuck, I guess, basically to sell it to the next person. And if I understand him correctly, basically, if you have a title insurance policy from another title company, and I said, hey, Mike, these guys are buying my house, you guys are running point on the title, or they choose you, there's another title insurance policy in front of you. I'm assuming you guys are more comfortable with that title because anything from that date to that transaction is his responsibility on his title insurance. Is that a true statement?
If an underwriter was willing to issue, if you're flipping a house, one thing I do see that is very common is flippers very commonly don't want to buy the owner's policy because they're buying it and we're selling it in 4 months or 3 months, right? And I'll let Nate and Blake and you guys speak on why that's important to have in a second here. But that is very common. And then secondly, to go along with what you said, basically, if a title insurance policy was issued and we see that, like you bought it, 4 months you sold it, and then the next title company who's doing the next purchase, well, they know that it could have been the same underwriter. Most people are working with one of 5 main underwriters. If that underwriter is willing to issue a policy, we're way more comfortable issuing something. It's very rare unless the title company had some negligence. It happens and things come up and we say, hey, we found something they didn't find. But it's awesome. It's amazing. Because if you're issuing a policy on a house that hasn't been sold in 70 years, a lot could have happened. No one's looked at it in 70 years.
Ian, if I could say, my question is, what happened is this. I've had 3 houses like this. So you buy a house, correct? For let's say XYZ house in Baltimore. So you've bought it, let's say for $200,000. The prior owner had, let's say, have a Bank of America payoff. So when the title company pays off the $200,000, but Bank of America takes 3 to 4 months to send notice to whoever it needs to be to say, hey, Jad paid off. When Jad bought the house, the title company paid off the $200,000 mortgage from Bank of America. Without that release, you can't flip the next house. However, if you buy title insurance, then if I came to these gentlemen and say, well, I bought title insurance, they're guaranteeing that I have clean title, even though Bank of America hasn't reported that I paid off the mortgage. That's why title insurance, like anyone that's flipping houses on this call, if you're not buying title insurance to flip houses, you finish the flip like in less than 45 or 90 days, you're going to be stuck.
The deeds aren't even on record. So Jad, to your point, and you're making a very good point. And so what I would say to further that is, especially specifically, and let's say you bought a flip and you used us and we did everything and we recorded the deed, blah, 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 blah. And 45 days later, you tried to sell it and the release wasn't on record. Hell, in Baltimore City, the deed might not even be on record yet, right? If you can then on the sale side, get the person that's purchasing the flip to also use us, then we can indemnify the release, we can indemnify the deed, we can indemnify the deed of trust because we did the first deal. And so we know that the release will be on record. We know that the deed of trust will be on record. We know that the deed will be on record. It's all part of the original policy that you purchased smartly when you bought the house, which now enables you to sell it. If you go to another title company that's with a different underwriter, that might be a little more difficult. With a policy, it's a bit easier, but if you don't purchase the policy, you're dead in the water. But if you stay in-house, then it's really easy because we just indemnify all that stuff.
And then last thing, just real quick, I had a house 2 weeks ago that closed in Riverdale. That I used Cardinal Title out of Maryland because that's where the agent wanted. They missed a big HELOC, like close to over, I think it was around 150, 170,000. So when I bought the house so when I went to go sell the house, it was showing $170,000 HELOC from SunTrust. And if I didn't buy title insurance, I mean, I don't know what I would do. I mean, I would be crying right now.
I mean, those are all common things that happens to everybody. It's the same thing. I mean, I can't tell you how many people go to resell a flip and they'll reach out to us because we're the lender on it. And then we'll be like, the deed of trust was never recorded. The deed was never recorded. And in all fairness, some of the, a lot of the times it might not even be the title company's fault. Like they could have thought they did it correctly, and then they went to go kick it. The recording office kicked it right back. Hey, you need this, you need this, you need this, and then it was kind of just lost in the shuffle. So I think it sums up the point of the importance. Hey,
no, but Jason, you're missing the point. They completely missed their title abstractor. The person that pulls the title completely didn't see that there was a HELOC on the property.
Yeah, so they missed it in review. Right.
So we went to a different title company, Jason. It's just their title abstractor committed malpractice. How do you miss $170,000 HELOC on a $400,000 house?
Well,
the moral of the story is don't use Cardinal Title.
Well, and it might not be Cardinal's fault. Like as a title company, it's very important to have all your ducks in a row. Who's processing your files from an internal standpoint? Who's your attorney? Who's your legal counsel helping them? When a lien comes up or something with curative, who do you have that can jump on it, right? And get on it right away. Who are you ordering your abstracts from, right? If you're doing a lot of stuff in Baltimore City, do you have a reputable Baltimore City abstract that you're using that 99.9% of the time they're catching everything. And if it is missed or something looks like it could be fishy, they're notifying you of that. If you're a title company just looking at money and that's it, and you're ordering 1999 abstracts through a marketplace on your software, they don't give a shit. They're coming from India. They just throw it on and you get it. It all comes back to what kind of company are you dealing with. And the most valuable thing I can say to anyone listening to this, the most valuable thing is to have a relationship with the title company. And that's whether they're working your transaction or you're selling the house and the agent brings a buyer to you, doesn't matter. Can you go to your title company and say, hey, this is what's going on? And will they care and give a shit, even if you're listing it and they're not involved in the property? At the end of the day, if you have a relationship with a reputable and a good title company that has quality people that actually care about you and your business and your customers, then you're going to be in golden hands. And we're all doing business, right? Title's a part of the business. Do that work up front, create a relationship, a working relationship, have it in place that we're always getting the owner's policy, but we want lowered title fees to save the costs, right? So we're balancing out and we're about the same. If a deal's hairy and there's cost problems and we're not making money, our bottom lines are low, but we have a relationship, can we cut here and there and come to? Who do we go to? If we need to close on a certain date and rush things, who do you have at that title company that's going to make sure that gets done on time for you, right? Who's going to get you to the settlement table? Who's your point of contact during the transactions? And who's your point of contact after? Baltimore City can be a nightmare when we get hacked or COVID happens, things get shut down. We got people walking into the courthouse and finding deeds and pulling liens, and we're delivering. I'm not going to say what I was going to say. We know people in the lien office. We know who we need to know to get the job done, but we can't do that for the 300, 400, 500 transactions we do a month sometimes. When we have a relationship with you, at the end of the day, it's business, right? We know how you like it. We know how you want it. We're going to do it the same way every time, and we're available to you when special circumstances arise.
And last thing, and the last thing for the night, Jason, is that I hope everyone's paying attention to what he's saying. I flipped 2 houses with a company out of Virginia because I was lazy and I live in Oakton, Virginia, and I didn't want to drive to Maryland. And all they did was just get their shit bounced back. And it took over 6 months to record the house because they just kept getting bounced back and they couldn't get anyone on the phone. So if anyone on this call, if this gentleman knows Baltimore that well, I strongly suggest everyone should use him.
Baltimore City is one of the toughest places in the country to do transactions. You're dealing with
Mhm.
taxes, recording. You're dealing with Baltimore City and Baltimore City government, the way they run.
Ground rent.
Your ground rent, fee simple versus leasehold. There's a lot
Water
that happens. Water escrows. When you can't get readings, there's a lot that goes into play. And doing that work up front, creating a relationship and I'm not selling us, creating a relationship with whoever you're working with. Like I said, whether they're doing the transaction or not, it's so important, because if you just want to just do your transactions and you want to do 10 a year, 20, 30, 40, 50, the more you do, the more you want your business to run like a well-oiled machine. You guys are the same as us, right? So we have our relationships with all of our vendors, all the ways we do things internally, the ways we can have loopholes and get special things done in special circumstances and situations. You need to do the same, because if you're looking at every deal, things are going to come up, especially when you're doing investor deals, especially when they're cash deals, especially when they're hard money loans, especially when they're smaller, quick flips in Baltimore City properties, right? But by having that relationship, you got your ass covered by these people and they're looking out for you, and you can go to them when things arise. And more importantly, they're going to come to you, and you can just run your business and focus on making money, doing what you do, and trust them on the back end. That's when you know you're smooth. So it's important to put the work in up front and create those relationships.
And if you're just a quick tip that's not even really related to title, but if you're investing in Baltimore City and you're getting financing, the first thing you need to ask that bank or that private lender, that hard money lender, is make sure they're comfortable doing a loan with ground rent or leaseholds, because pretty much all of them are not, because unless it's a localized bank or localized lender. I can count on so many hands how many loans we get just because somebody was going through a project at an institutional back lender and they found out it was a leasehold and they couldn't get it bought out quick enough. And that's a Baltimore City thing. And the point is you got to have local resources. All right, Blake, what else you got on this presentation? Let's circle back to that.
Who's Blake?
Right.
Blake's in sunny Florida, man, getting a tan.
Florida.
He's on the beach.
Sunglasses on and everything. So, I mean, we just ran through basically everything I have in the slides. But that's okay. It's basically how to pick a title company, right? And like Michael was saying, build a relationship with a title company that you trust, that you vibe with, that you like to work with, that's going to be available to you at all times, especially when there's an issue that comes up, right? And knows how to handle it in the jurisdiction that you're in. So I think Michael just broke that down pretty good. I don't need to do that again. And then this is, why use us if you want to use us. And again, Michael broke that down pretty good again. So, we've been around a long time. We have a lot of experience. We have super fast title work, cash deals and hard money banker deals can happen in about a week, maybe 2, after we get title and get all the lenders requirements completed. We have dedicated processors, account reps, and client care specialists, just basically to support you. So, not a lot of title companies have that. You're basically just dealing with your processor, or you're dealing with one other attorney there.
Yep.
Whereas, we like to add another layer, actually 2 more layers of support.
You'll see this a lot in the real estate world. If any business, and speaking specifically on ours, is busy, right? When real estate's busy and the market's busy, and a title company's got an influx of refinances coming in from lenders, and they're easy deals that close quick. And it's the same process every time with their processors and ours. And then you got realtors sending us business who are just doing regular buyers, and they're 3, 4, 5, 600, $1 million plus deals, and we're making big money on them. And we're not having to lower fees and anything like that often. And we're super busy. All of a sudden, we run out of resources to handle the volume. Well, a lot of the times, the reality of it is the assignment deals, the investor deals, the people you're doing 10 deals a year with, those deals go to the bottom of the barrel, right? It's like, we're not making any money on those. There's more things to clear. They're problematic. That's just the way most title companies think. I tried to not think like that and build a business where every deal is equally as important. However, there are times where, I'll have clients say, hey, we got 50 assignment deals to send you. And I'll tell them, like, look, this is the level of service and this is what I can give you. Just honest and transparent and upfront about it. It depends on who we have on staff and the resources. With that being said, I used to run Masters Title and Escrow, and I built that up over the last 8 years. I started Legacy Settlement Services because I wanted the best systems, technology, and I wanted to treat the employees better than anyone in the industry and make sure that they care just as much as I do for our clients. So like when it comes to title turn times, you're doing a flip, you want to close the deal quick. We have the best technology to where you could send me a contract now, I'll have title work done by noon tomorrow. Because I took all the human processing and all that kind of stuff out of the equation, right? I made the business as redundant and efficient and based on basically technology and things like that as I could, so that what we need gets ordered always automatically. And then it's just sitting there for someone to review, click a button, boom, and now we're done. A lot of title companies are still using older software. They don't want to pay for extra people in the office to review the title. So you got one processor. They can be backed up if title's busy, handling 50 to 100 files. They have to order it. They have to order the abstract. They have to review the title. They have to manually type the title work up. It just depends on the type of title company you're working with. And I'm not saying we don't get backed up and busy, because the reality is we are super backed up and busy right now. But we don't miss closing dates, and we are never late on title. Just because of the way that we set the business up. So it's important to know who you're dealing with and are they willing to go to bat for you?
Yeah. I was just going to say, I think something else, Blake, if you can go back to the last slide about, picking a title company, I think that's something that you really skimmed over. Not to say Legacy isn't the best ones to choose, right? We've used a lot of people, either it's been forced upon us or we've gone through people. But I think there's a few points that maybe you could bring up to us is like, when you're looking for a title company and you're a newer investor, like what could you do, or how could you vet a title company to say, hey man, like I know these people are going to do my transaction correctly. Is there a few questions you could ask, or things that you should look out for that are like red flags or green lights to say these guys are going to be good or bad?
Mike, want to take that, or you want me to?
Yeah, I mean, if I were a newer investor, or if I were providing advice like I will now to a newer investor, what I would say is this: have you done any deals yet? If the answer is no, talk to investors, talk to people who are doing what you're doing, and ask them what they're doing. Ask them who they're using, and then don't just send a deal to that title company, right? It's kind of backwards. Most people would think, well, I'm giving them business, they should give a shit, right? Well, you don't know. You don't know how busy they are. You don't know if they have sales reps who are going to then try to capture your business. You don't know if they just are going to run through the deal, close it, never know who you are. Get on the phone with them. Get a connection at the title company, right? Tell them, hey, I'm a newer investor. This is my first property. This is my second. I'm planning on doing a lot more. I want to create a relationship, a working relationship with somebody. By talking to other individuals in my world, the investor world, this is what they're telling me to expect and what to look out for. Can we talk about, what your fees are? Can we have a set pricing? How long does it take to return title? If there's a problem that arises, do you have someone I can reach 24/7? What's the best way to reach you? How many people work on a transaction, right? If it's an assembly line and you're just one of 500 deals that the title company has open, it's a Walmart of title, and you have a problem all of a sudden, but 8 people have worked on the file, and you send an email to one person, they're out, or they just don't care. You get the worst feeling in the world is to be powerless in a transaction because of your vendors, right? One thing I can assure you, Legacy, is that we make sure that everybody has a point of contact at our company that's a sales rep or a host to them that they can reach 24/7. And then our processors work the files from start to finish. So you reach that sales rep for anything you need anytime. And if they're not taking care of you and it gets back to me, it's big trouble. So we make sure that you have a connection. You need a connection. It's very, very, very important. And just for the reputation and the brand, I'll bend over backwards and do whatever it takes to make sure customers are happy, even if we're losing money.
So I know I don't think either of you guys are attorneys, and I know there's a difference between, typically there's an attorney associated with a title company, but again, I think some people don't realize that, there's legal work and then there's title work. There's a few questions that kind of have come in through different portals, either through Facebook or through here, that I think are important. And if you guys can't answer these because, they feel like they're more attorney related questions, that's fine. Won't hold you to it.
Nate McCabe is smarter than any title attorney I've ever met. So I'm sure he can answer them. And we have attorneys on staff as well, but.
So what happens? And I know this, Ian's had this example before. I've had this example before, but I didn't have to file suit in order to get this. It just kind of happened. What happens to the earnest money deposit with a defaulted buyer?
Well, it depends on what the contract says. And any good contract should say that if the buyer defaults, the EMD goes to the seller. They generally have a couple of outs if there's a problem in the inspection or a problem with the appraisal, right? Those are the two generic outs. But what happens to the EMD really should be dictated by the sales contract, and in a well-written contract, then the EMD should go to the seller.
Yeah, we had a case, it was a commercial deal, and basically the buyer tried to opt out after the study period, basically on the last day that they had to close. And luckily for us, the buyer was dictating the title company, but the title company that they had dictated was actually relatively reputable. And what happened was, instead of the money just coming to us, he said, no, man, this has to go to intermediary, excuse me if I'm not saying it correctly, where it went to the court. And then we had to go fight about it in court, even though it was a very clear-cut case. And I know we're probably talking more about a lot of single-family stuff where deposits are a lot easier to get back, but that is something that could happen to you. It's not just like it's a free check if you're doing a commercial deal or a single-family house. Oh, well, they didn't perform and get my $1,000 or $100,000 deposit. You could potentially have to go to the court system and fight to get your money, even though what it says in the contract.
Some of those bigger commercial contracts have an arbitration clause. And that's, in some cases, the only way you can get the contract signed is that it has the arbitration clause in it. Certainly as a seller, it's more airtight to have the EMD, the deposit, whatever you want to call it, surrendered to the seller if the buyer defaults. With some specific instances, like I said, with an inspection or there's an appraisal issue or something like that, that the buyer has the ability to get out. But I understand when you're talking about big money commercial deals, especially why they put an arbitration clause in, because you're not talking about a $10,000 deposit. The deposits are huge. But again, I would point you to the contract and see what the verbiage in the contract is, because it should be laid out in a tight contract.
In the end, though, you guys have a fiduciary responsibility, and you're the third party. I hate to call it a third party, but you're neutral. You're the neutral party in the transaction. Mm-hmm. And even though you might have employed Legacy Title or whoever it is to represent you as the buyer or the seller, whatever it may be, they can't just turn the money over, and they don't have your side. In the end, they are a very neutral party.
Well, we're going to do what the contract states, and when you're dealing with a big commercial deal, I would certainly personally review the contract before I even accepted it to make sure that I had clear terms dictated to me on what to do with the money if the deal fell apart. It's the same thing with like post-closing agreements, like escrow agreements, post-closing for repairs or occupancy. As an escrow agent, I want to know exactly what to do. If A happens, then I do B. If B happens, then I do C. It can't be left up to us as the escrow agents. It has to be dictated in the contract or the agreement. And when you're writing up those agreements, you need to learn to make that stuff clear.
Yeah, that definitely makes sense. And I do want to switch gears a little bit. We have some other questions that have come in through a couple other different avenues. And one of them is, I think a lot of people get confused with, oh, my title company is so expensive, but they're wrapping up. They just see the closing cost line item on their Alta or on their HUD. And they're like, oh my God, there's so much money. But a lot of that money is recording stamps or recording fees, mortgage stamps. Maryland's an expensive state to operate in. What kind of fees from the title side of things can buyers expect? We don't need the exact dollar amount from a title side of things, and what they can expect, assuming they're taking full freight and recording a mortgage. What type of fees you could expect, say in Baltimore County or Baltimore City, PG, what kind of taxes are they looking at to kind of be able to estimate? And again, we don't need exact dollars, just kind of an idea of what, we should expect as buyers.
Nate, I'll start this one out and then let you give the real details.
Okay.
So as the title company, we only have control of so much when it comes to the pricing. Okay. And I tell people this, as long as you're using a reputable title company, you want a title company that's reputable and provides good service. And then there's always pricing. For the most part, most title companies are going to be pretty similar when it comes to pricing. The owner's title insurance and the lender's title insurance policies are going to be the same no matter who you use. There's state filed regulated rates. The only thing we control for pricing for us is what I like to call the title fees. Okay. The title fees are going to be the title exam, the settlement or closing fee, the doc prep fee, the abstract, right? They're all looped into that section C on a CD. Now, let's bulk those into one number. Typically, they're going to be between $800 to $1,500 in title fees plus title insurance, right? Of the title fees, it's the only thing we can raise and lower. That's where, when you have a title company relationship, you'd really want to, as a business owner yourself, you really want to just negotiate like, hey, let's get a number that works for you, where I'm going to get great service, and that works for me as my bottom lines and my numbers as an investor. I always think a fair number for investors is like $750 to $1,000 in title fees plus title insurance if they want it or not. So of the title fees, we have to pay the abstractor we order. We have to pay for lien sheets. We have to pay settlement agents. We'll send settlement agents anywhere, anytime, other countries, like whatever it takes. So you're talking, if we have 1,000 in fees, we got anywhere from 400 to 700 coming out to outside vendors. And then whatever's left over, we keep plus 80% of the title insurance. So if someone's charging 500 in fees, it's not like, you're getting over on them. I mean, they're doing it basically at cost if they're charging 500 plus insurance. So anywhere around that 1,000 number is good, but we understand investors, numbers are super important. So we're comfortable going anywhere from 500 to $1,000, but you do want to make sure your title company is making money and covering their costs. And if you don't want owner's policies ever, they're going to want to raise the fees a little bit probably. If you want to have less in fees, like if you're doing $1 million deal, the owner's insurance and lender's insurance, the cost is based on the purchase price, right? So if they're buying $1 million property, we're going to have $6,000 in title insurance. We'll do fees for zero. We don't care. We're making 80% of $6,000. If you're buying a $150,000 house, the policies are going to be $400. If the fees are $500, that's a wash. We're looking at 80% of 400 is what we make. So it all just depends. We can only regulate the title fee portion, which is anywhere from zero basically to 1,500. But most title companies are about $995 on a purchase to $1,200, I'd say. And Nate, do you want to talk about the insurance, the fees?
Yeah, well, I'll echo what Michael said. A lot of our fees are pass-throughs. I mean, we're paying other parties. So when you see the fees, they're not all coming to us. And I'll echo what he said again too, that it's based on purchase price. So and look, as an investor, it's also based on volume. If you're bringing us 10 deals a month and you want to talk about fees, let's talk. If you're bringing one deal a year, we're probably not going to be as willing to talk about fees. I mean, we'll get the deal done. But and the other thing he said that if we're not issuing an insurance policy, whether it's an owner's or a lender's policy, personally, I don't even want to do the deal because the liability on our end becomes much higher as the person who does the title search and provides the clear title. The insurance policy that is issued is really to protect everybody because, let's say you purchase a row home in Baltimore City, blah, 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 and you don't want owner's policy, you pay cash, so there's no insurance, and something pops up that got missed in the land records, you could try to drag us into court. And even though we have done our due diligence and we'll win in court, we still got to pay an attorney. So, when there's not a policy issued personally, and I'm kind of conservative when it comes to that kind of stuff, I don't even really want to do the deal because the fees aren't worth it. As far as transfer and rec tax goes, that's really, again, that's can't be controlled. Neither can the insurance policy because that's regulated by the state. But transfer and rec tax is really the big piece of the expense. And depending on the county, state transfer tax is 0.5% across the board. County transfer tax, depending on the county, goes from 0.5% to 1.5%. And then state rec tax, the way they calculate it's a little weird. It's like $5 per thousand or $7 per thousand or $10 per thousand. But basically it's about another 0.5% to 1% for the recordation tax as well. And then if you get into owner occupancy credits, they'll take a little money off of it. But basically you're looking at, depending on the municipality, 1.5% to 3% of the transaction cost for the transfer and recordation taxes. In the city, it's higher. Baltimore County, it's higher.
And all this stuff can be super overwhelming if you're new as an investor. I know guys like Ian and Jason know that stuff, better, if not better than we do, better than I do. I know that. And I own the title company. So it's like, it can be very overwhelming. So it's like, who it goes back to that relationship piece, right? Don't get overwhelmed by it because it just is a part of a transaction. Just make sure you have the right contact and the right people who can explain everything to you when you're in a transaction. You don't want to be new to investing and staying up at night because you don't know if you're getting ripped off. You don't know if you're paying the right prices and you don't understand what you're paying for, because an investment, it's a business, right? You make an investment to make money. So it's important to understand what every dollar is going into any type of investment you're making.
Michael, if I can, one more thing, just this is a deal that's happening right now with the title company. I'm buying a house for 350,000, hopefully.
Dad, can we talk, because you do a lot of deals?
Yeah, so this is 350 and I'm buying it for 350. Let me just tell you, I'm buying this house for 350 and the ARV 600, right? So I'm super excited about it. So the realtor says that, she just partnered up with a new title company because I guess she wants to double dip, partner with the title company. We're supposed to close on August 30th. The new title company that she partnered up with, it was just a lawyer that hired like a title processor, I guess, off of like Indeed or Craigslist. She still hasn't ordered the payoff. She hasn't even gotten the authorization to do it because the guy had in 2008 had a loan modification or something. So here we are 3 weeks later. Now the homeowner is tired of it all, right? And he wants to do his own formal appraiser because he thinks his realtor, didn't get him a high enough price. And the whole thing is, and then the title company that she partnered with now is kind of embarrassed. They won't pick up her calls. The lender that I'm using is like, what's going on here? What's the delay? I mean, so my point is on the call is like, everyone that's on here, guys, $1,500, I assure you, is not gonna kill you. Like that, if I would have paid an extra $1,000 to close this deal on August 30th, the hard money lender would be happy. I would have already closed. The homeowner would have moved already now to West Virginia and gone to wherever he was going, and I would be halfway through my rehab. Instead, my realtor decided that she wanted to be clever, and she partnered with a lawyer who hired a title processor off the internet. And here we are a month later, and we can't get out of the deal because they've already started. We don't even know how to switch it. The homeowner doesn't want to pick up the realtor's calls anymore because he's so frustrated with the whole thing. And I have a profit of like $90,000 that, we'll see if it gets done or not. Probably not though, because I think the homeowner's getting tired.
And what you're seeing there is somebody it's, you never know, and I don't pass judgment or ever even look into anything because I don't care, but you never know with all the different people involved in a transaction, what the motives are for everybody involved. So the realtor's motive with that title company, attorney, whatever it is, could be outside marketing. It could be a family member. Like, you have no idea why they're steering it there, but is that the place that has the best interest of the transaction? We try to operate, and any reputable title company, there's a lot of good ones in the area. I have a lot of friends in title. Universal Title is good. Advantage Title is great. Definitive's good. Who's your buddy over at Blake? Who's the other David?
Rain Title.
Yeah, they're great. I mean, you got a lot of great title companies, and they, from what I've seen, is that we all operate with the best interest of the customer in mind, no matter what it is. There's no room for outside motives. There's no room for me to place one deal in front of another for selfish reasons, right? So we operate for our brand and for the reputation and to get the deal done for the people the right way. And you should be aware of that. Now, had you had a transaction like that, Jed, and you had a title company, right, or we knew you before, like, just call us. If the buying side's steering it and you're selling it, for example, call us. We'll get the title work done in 24 hours. We'll order the payoff that day. We'll bail anybody out. Anyone who's listening to this, we'll bail you out at any time. Like, we like to prove ourselves to people, and we really shine when things are messed up and people need us, not when things are smooth.
Just as an example, if this slide in front of you guys, those are all our cell phone numbers.
Yeah, I mean,
we're always around.
Call Blake or Nate. They're better.
No, I mean, general, like, just seriously, like, anyone that's listening to this, like, my uncle worked for Fannie Mae and used to be like, title insurance is such a scam. It's all used to be done, blah, blah, blah. But I flipped like 35 houses so far this year. And I'm telling you, like, first of all, title insurance is critical, but then finding a title company that can actually record shit and not miss shit and can close in a certain time and can get the payoff done. Like, you guys, I mean, it's
not a scam. So it's just car insurance is, car accidents happen way more often, right? When you use title insurance, it's very seldom. So I understand why people say it. I don't argue with anyone. At the end of the day, I don't even care if it is a scam. It's essential to a transaction. So if it's essential to a transaction, just make sure your ducks are in a row and you know what you're doing. And there's always ways, obviously, to make sure that all your vendors and all your partners within this industry, you guys are all aligned. And if anything I've learned in this business, and I think the reason why I've got to where I am in it is just because just operate honestly, above board, transparently.
But Michael, I think you're missing the most important part, and it's the last thing I want to say, is that the most important part for everyone on this call, if you're flipping in Baltimore City, Baltimore County, or Montgomery County, where you can't really record in person, you have to do it on electronic because the offices are closed because of Corona. If you guys don't have like a title company that can record, the 2 houses I did, now 3 houses, guys, it took 6 months to record. My flip was done in less than 90 days. I just sat there and waited because I used a title company that kept getting their shit bounced back because they didn't know how to record.
And they don't have a relationship.
You're right.
understand that by now.
Chad, you're right.
And I have sympathy for, sometimes the companies get super busy and they're just over their heads.
No, they weren't super
don't know what
busy.
they're
They
doing.
just didn't know what they were doing, Michael. I'm a lawyer, by the way. I'm licensed in Virginia. Like I know, I don't know if I know comps, but I know. The shit just kept getting bounced back. They didn't collect enough taxes. They didn't collect this. They didn't collect that. They thought, oh, it's Maryland. It's easy. We'll just submit it. Oh, if it gets bounced back, oh, don't worry. We'll just resubmit it. Good luck trying to get someone on the phone in one of those jurisdictions. Let me know how it works out.
One thing I can speak confidently about is Nate's intelligence at Legacy, and then our recorder and funder, our guy, he's been doing it for 25 years. He knows every rule, every law, every stipulation. He can tell you what's getting bounced back and what's not before it's sent. He knows what needs to be in every packet for every county, every jurisdiction, everywhere in Maryland.
So basically, Michael, if I had used you, I would have saved, because I was getting charged $4,000 a month. I would have saved I would have saved $12,000 on one house.
Yeah.
And on the other one, I would have saved $6,000.
Well, and Jad, to your point too, even if the courthouse is backed up, or like let's say July 1st when all the lien sheets expired and then they rejected everything that wasn't on yet, even if it was in the queue and you had to go get new lien sheets. If you're using us on the buy side and then also stipulating that we need to be used on the sell side because the deed's not on, we can indemnify. You can still move forward. There's a path forward if you know what you're doing.
Well, and that's the thing here is that title gets really crazy and there's a lot of good companies, bad companies. And again, it's not a pitch for Legacy, but it is for a pitch for, you need to know who you're using and where you're going and what you're doing. And in the end, we all have horror stories. We all forget. It's like playing poker. We all remember all the hands that we lost with the best cards out there and not the ones that you won with. Right. And you got to, put it in perspective. So in the end, I really do appreciate Blake, Nate, and Mike and coming on here and your transparency and letting us look inside and understanding how title companies make money and what they do for us and how they quarterback the transaction and what their role is. A lot of people take this insurance, all the little nitty gritty stuff that nobody wants to deal with. This is the stuff that can make or break your deals. Without a title company, you're not crossing the finish line. We can all raise money. We can all find deals. But honestly, finding people that can get your transactions completed is really important. Blake, Nate, Mike, thank you so much for coming on. Their contact info is up here on this slide. We'll send out a follow-up email for anyone that was here tonight with this recording, as well as you can find this recording replayed over on Facebook if you need their information or find them. But it's pretty easy. It's all their first names at legacyfortitle.com, and they are all really easy to find on social media. So we appreciate you guys. Look forward to having you back on here in the near future. And
anytime.
Yeah, thanks for having us. We're super grateful.
Thanks, guys.
If anyone needs any help, we're always available, whether we're doing the deal or not. So
thanks, guys.
Yeah, and you guys, we love this stuff. If you just want to call us and talk about deals you have, like I'll talk your ear off. We do it because we love it, right?
I don't love this stuff. I love delivering the best possible service with the people like Nate who love the stuff.
Well, Mike, we expect a music video next time. Mike, we expect a music video next time when you come on, make this more interesting. Sure. And Ashley Levy gets the quote of the night, making title sexy. Thank you.
And talking about Blake. I hope not Blake.
We'll catch you guys next month. See you
guys. Blake, put sunscreen on that head, man.